Hi, my fellow screenwriters. It's Paul from Small Town Movie Critic. And on this channel, we're all about helping you create that kick-ass script. And we do that with helpful tips, tools, and product reviews. Now today, we are going to be answering the question, where to learn screenwriting. Now to answer that question, I'd like to give you my top 4 list of categories on where to learn screenwriting. Now the first one is college. Believe it or not, you can get a degree in screenwriting, a graduate or an undergraduate degree. Now, the top school at this particular time and place in 2020 is at the University of Southern California, USC. It's graded alumni like George Lucas, Roger Zemeckis, and Ron Howard. I think of George Lucas, I think of you all know who's the guy who created Star Wars, right? And Ron Howard, Backdraft, and Apollo 13, and all these sort of iconic films, and even Roger Zemeckis. So you can see that, holy cow, this is really indeed the holy trinity of screenwriters. Now, one of the downsides of a USC is that it only takes in about 26 undergraduates and 32 graduate students a year. So you can see how competitive it can really be. Now, however, all is not lost if you don't get into USC. You see there's a lot of good schools around the country, and so I want to give you the rest of the top 5 schools. The next school is UCLA, the University of California at Los Angeles, and has alumni like Francis Ford Coppola. I always think of The Godfather, and Bram Stoker's Dracula, David Kopp, and Shane Black. And I've been a real big fan of Shane Black these last couple of years. Number 3 is NYU. New York University Tisch School of Arts. You can think of Kenneth Logan, Neil LaBrute, and Alexandra Jung. And Alexandra is really good. Is really well known as one of the writers for Friends, and so she's had some very acclaimed TV episodes that she's written. Number 4 is Columbia. James Monagold, who wrote Logan. You have Kimberly Pierce and Nicole, I'm probably going to butcher the last name. And number 5 is the American Film Institute in Los Angeles. And in that, some notable alumni are Susanna Grant, who wrote Aaron Brockovich, Scott Frank, and Jeff Nathanielson. So these are some of just of the schools, the top 5 schools in screenwriting right now. So you might be thinking to yourselves, does this mean I have to move to the coast, either to California or New York, since that's where all 5 schools are in the top 5 are all located? And the fortunate answer for us is no. If you do a Google search in your area, you'll find that there are universities and colleges and even community colleges that offer a screenwriting degree. I think it goes beyond saying that the professors, though, at those top 5 universities and colleges probably have more experience in the field. They probably have more access to Hollywood and probably some more hands-on ability to figure out how things sort of work in Hollywood than your screenwriters or your professors do at these other institutions. But I think a thing to keep in mind, though, that your success as a screenwriter isn't tied to who you had as a teacher. You see, the teachers give us the tools, but we as the screenwriters are the one who take our raw material and either turn them into mansions or into shacks. Now, as you think about the first category, it's important to also look at our pros and cons. And as you think of the pros and cons, also think about your style of learning. Now, if an academic approach is not one of your favorite things to do, I probably would not recommend going through the academic routes. Now, some of the pro things to sort of think about in terms of doing screenwriting through a college or a university is that you have a plan to go through the material. They have basically they have a curriculum or a way that you touch on different aspects of screenwriting, and they give you sort of a good rounded education. You get to know about all different types of screenwriting and also film as well too. You have experts who know the fields and have some experience passing that experience down to others. They know how to teach other people. Well, at least theoretically, right? I know there's always the typical college professor who doesn't always seem to know how to teach well. But in general, you would hope that especially at these high institutions, but any institution, that they know how to pass on the knowledge that they have inside their heads. The other nice thing about an academic setting like this at a college or university is you also have classmates who you get to go through this journey of screenwriting together with. And I think that says something because it's a lot easier to go through things when we have those extra people with us and alongside of us so they can empathize with our journey. Now, some of the cons is definitely money. If you're wondering what USC would cost for 1 year, now I looked on niche.com, and I'll link the site down in the description. The University of Southern California costs approximately $36,161 a year. And that's not the most expensive one. NYU came in with a price tag of over $39,000. So it's not inexpensive to go to these type of universities. Now, another con to consider when you're thinking of colleges, the college approach, is that each type of curriculum has its own type of flaws and strengths. And the hard part of that is you don't always know what you're missing or what you're going to need to have more experience at moving forward. You get a very well-rounded education, but sometimes you need to have more in-depth on one particular thing, be it character, plot, or something along those lines. Now, our second category is self-guided screenwriters. Now, these are folks who don't have a formal education and just pick up stuff to learn. So it's sort of like a passion project for folks or a hobby, but it can turn into a career as well too. Now, the great news about this is there are tons of resources for screenwriters. There are plenty of books. There are online classes, like on Udemy, and I'll link that below. I've taken several courses on there that are really good at different parts of screenwriting. There's also YouTube videos as well as hyper videos. There's just a lot of content at your fingertips. You can just type on the web and you even find vlogs and articles. I mean, the amount of knowledge about screenwriting is tremendous. And this brings us to the pros. There are mountains of content. Just say what you want to find when you type into YouTube, and you'll be able to find anything you want on dialogue. And if you don't want to watch a video on it, if you want to read an article, you just have to type into Google the same word dialogue. And again, tons of different articles from different people come up. So this is one of the wonderful things about being a self-guided screenwriter. And I have been one for about 10 years myself. One of the second pros for self-guided screenwriters is that it's cheaper than school. Now, personally, I've been doing, as I said before, I've been doing this for about 10 years of being a self-guided screenplay writer. And I just spent probably close to about $4,000 between all the classes I've taken, all the products like software like Final Draft, and all books and all those type of things. And $4,000 is significantly less than $36,000, which what you would be paying at a school like USC, and it's even less if you think of it at a time over 10 years. You're not spending that much money per year, so it's even less than having to go to a community college as well. But with that said, there are several cons to this method as well too. And one of the biggest cons is the mountain of content. It's just sort of a two-edged sword. And one of the things you really need to do as a self-guided screenwriter is you need to have a plan. It's real easy to fall into the trap of, well, I want to just read this particular book, and that book will give you a certain set of knowledge about maybe plot, but then, are you making sure you're also reading books about character development? Are you reading books about dialogue? Are you reading books about just screenplay fundamentals, about how the type is and stuff like that? So the hard part is a con of being a self-guided screenplay writer is that you really need to have a plan. If you don't have that plan, it's real easy to sort of just keep running in circles and not getting all the information that you need. Another con for self-guided screenplay writers is this tends to be a very lonely type of hobby if you do it self-guided, in that you don't normally have a lot of other people around you. As in the academic class, you have fellow students who are going through and sharing similar experiences than you. And as a self-guided screenplay writer, you have to really be intentional about reaching out to other folks. And so if you go along with the self-guided screenplay writing, style or category or methodology, you want to make sure that you also are having relationships with other screenplay writers, either on Twitter or Facebook or in some other forums, somewhere else that you're making sure you're connecting with folks, because otherwise you won't be able to have that shared experience, which I think is very helpful, having some type of community as you're learning this. Now, before we go to number 3, and if you're finding value in this content, please like and subscribe to the video, and so that way you'll know when we come out with some more content. Now, the third category is where you can learn screenwriting is through a mentor. Now, maybe you know somebody who's a screenwriter, or maybe you know there's a group of writers that meets, and one of the ways you can do this is by checking out your local bookstore or going on Google and seeing if there's any writers groups in your particular area. Now, the pros to this is you get a lot of hands-on help with your writing when you're in this writing group. Now, you also have somebody you can, as you're in this group too, you also have people that can say, well, hey, you really need to read this book about this, or this book really helped me with screenwriting. So you have people who have some previous knowledge about what works for them, and that can help you with figuring out what type of resources that you need. And the other thing too is you have community. You have people who are going along and writing as well as you, and that's helpful as well too, because if you get stuck, you have somebody you can talk to. Now, the cons of this is, again, to assume that the plan that either your mentor or your writing group has will be a helpful one for you. You know, you're assuming that they learned very similar to you, and that might not be the case at all. They might have a different method or different way or different things that click for them that doesn't necessarily click for you. The other hard part is just finding these groups in the first place. You know, I did say you can do a Google search or maybe look at your local bookstore or something like that. But it's still hard to find these groups. And even if you find these groups, you might not click with this particular group, and then you have to go find another one. And sometimes it takes a while to do that, and it can be very discouraging. Now, the fourth category is a blend of the first 3 categories, and I will call it the system approach. Now, in a system approach, you have a directed pathway towards learning, you have a good amount of resources, and you probably are working with other students as well. And you also have a guru who's designed the system. So in a sense, you have a mentor as well too. Now, the pros of a system, generally, they're cheaper than a college degree. That's not always the case, but generally they're cheaper than a college degree. It gives you a clear pathway in learning. They sort of lay out the steps of, okay, so how do we get from point A to point B? And that hopefully gives you an opportunity to talk with other students as well too. Hopefully, in a lot of these systems, they have message boards or forums or Facebook groups in order that people can talk to each other and connect and network and stuff like that. Now, the cons, it still could be expensive. It might not be as much as a college course, but it could still be several $1,000s or several $100s. Now, the other hard part of this, if the system doesn't fit with the way that you learn, then you sort of threw your money out the window if you had to pay for it up front and didn't get a chance to check it out at the beginning. And the other thing too is just to check out if the guru is good. Just because somebody has a system, but if they never sold a screenplay or if they don't have really any knowledge of the industry, is it something that you would like to do? Now, which one of these 4 methods or categories is right for you? Now, if you've watched my previous videos, you sort of know where I fall at in this line. But here's the thing. The most important method for you is the one that works for you. That's not the same method that works for me. Let me say that again because that's important. The most important method is what works for you. It could be any of these 4 methods. They all have their pros and cons to them, but you need to find the one that lights you on fire, the one that once makes you write. It could be going through and getting a college degree. It could be self-guided. It could be finding that mentor group or writers group, and it could be using a system. It could be any of those things. And for me, it's been the latter one, number 4, the system. I've gotten into the FAST system, and has really helped my learning style. It's been really good. I really feel on top of writing, and it has changed my energy level towards writing. It has made me more productive as a writer, and so that's why I've been doing it, and it's been really helpful. As I said previously, I've been a 10-year self-guided screenplay writer, and it's only going through this system that I've actually advanced enough to actually finish a screenplay. So that's why I like this particular system. If you want to know more about this system, again, I don't get a referral for this. I don't get paid for them at all. I just really believe in the system because it's really helped me. And all the stuff, all my videos on this channel are about helping you create that kick-ass screenplay. And I think it's important. If this works for you, great. If it doesn't, hopefully there's something else that we talk about that will help light that fire of you writing and help for you creating that screenplay. But again, the link is in the description below, and they also have a free 10-day sort of preview of the system, so you can work through the system and see if it's something right for you. So as we wrap up this video, what type of category resonates with you? Let me know in the comment section below. And remember, the hardest thing to do is to take constant action on your dreams. So keep writing, keep researching, and keep following your dream of finishing your screenplay. I'll see you in the next video.